No, the same feeling I'm feeling right now is what people was feeling.
And the feeling you're feeling right now is?
Disgust.
Is this you talking or the Vick team of attorneys, image shapers, and the like?
This is Mike Vick. People will see my work out there, my work in the communities, and my work with the Humane Society, and how I really do care now, how I care about animals.
That was Michael Vick last night on 60 Minutes, his first interview since serving a year and a half in federal prison for dog fighting. With us now to discuss the impact of Vick's return, former sports writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer, Stephen A. Smith, and with us from Washington, Dave Zirin. He's sports writer for The Nation magazine and author of A People's History of Sports. Thanks, gentlemen, both for being with us. Stephen, I'll start with you since you woke up so damn early out there for us. You worked in Philadelphia. You know the town well. How is Michael Vick going to be received by what is a very tough sports town?
Well, they're going to be very, very tough on him initially, simply because you got a lot of people in Philadelphia that do not believe that he should be given a second chance. They've made that very, very clear from the moment they learned that Michael Vick would be a Philadelphia Eagle. But at the end of the day, this is Philadelphia that we're talking about, and as long as that man scores touchdowns and he doesn't break the law while doing so, they'll get along.
That's exactly right. Dave, what were your impressions as you watched the 60 Minutes interview last night? Obviously, people who have made up their minds about Michael Vick are not going to be swayed by an interview, but what did you see as you watched it?
Well, I felt like I wasn't seeing a former football star and #1 draft pick. I felt like I was seeing a man who just spent 23 months in Leavenworth craving and fighting for some kind of a second chance and hoping that for all eternity he wouldn't have a scarlet F for felon tattooed on his chest. And that's really what makes this so much more than a sports story. I mean, you got a country where it has 2.3 million people behind bars, and now you have the most famous ex-felon in the country trying, begging, pleading for that second chance. Will the people of Philadelphia give it to him? That's an open question.
Stephen, Andy Serwer's with us. He's got a question.
Hey, Stephen, you know, I mean, all this strikes me as a little bit strange. Of all the women and girlfriends who've been beaten up by NFL players, I have never seen so much hand-wringing about a bunch of dogs. Now, I love dogs as much as anybody, but what is it about Michael Vick in this case that just gets people going like this?
Well, obviously, you've got a lot of animal rights activists and a lot of animal rights lovers who are very, very adamant that he should be, you know, serving. Some of them want him to serve more time. I was on the Ed Show a couple of weeks back, and a representative from PETA was telling me that he needs to undergo a neurological examination before he's allowed to be back in the NFL, which I thought was utterly ridiculous. I thought that was really over the line. But you still have a lot of animal rights lovers and animal rights activists who feel this way. But then you have a plethora of people, particularly those within the African-American community, that strongly believe that he paid this penance. I'm one of those people. You spent 18 months in a federal penitentiary.
I agree.
You've lost $135 million. Be quiet, leave the man alone, let him live his life. As long as he doesn't break the law, it shouldn't be a problem.
You remember that ESPN show a couple of years ago that showed the side of the NFL that was so truthful that the NFL forced ESPN to take it off. And I just want to follow with what Andy says. Women are so abused, not just in the NFL, but in a lot of sports. Where's the outrage there? Girlfriends and wives. Where's the outrage there?
Well, there is outrage, but the guys are always let back in the door, Dave. And, you know, in this case, I think it's you have animals are seen as defenseless. Not that the women were defenseless, but these dogs were, you know, obviously didn't want to be thrown in the middle of a dog fighting ring. Can you see the parallels here?
Well, look, I have defended Michael Vick on different shows. I've also squared off against PETA. And I swear, sometimes they act like I'm at home eating French poodle fajitas or something. And so I want to be clear. I love dogs. I love pets. But this is a case... no. But this is a case. This is a very simple case. The man paid his debt to society, and so what are we going to say now? How many stations of the cross are we saying that he's going to have to go through before we just say, you know what, give the man a second chance? And once again, that's what makes this more than just a sports story. It's about how we treat ex-prisoners.
I think it's also a story about our culture and about, I mean, if you looked, and what was really interesting to me out of the 60 Minutes piece last night was a look into his background and where he grew up and where it was accepted. He wasn't the only one doing this on his own out of some evil thread in his mind.
And Stephen, I brought up the point earlier. I grew up in the deep South. There are a lot of white people in the Deep South that grew up over the past 100 years with cockfighting.
Right.
Well, you also heard the guy from the Humane Society talk about how this is something that's prevalent within the white community, within the Hispanic community, as well as the African American community in certain parts of this country. So certainly it's not an ethnic thing. This is something that's extremely prevalent, and they need to address it. The only thing that I will say about the interview last night that sort of turned me off is when Michael Vick looked into the camera and, as far as I'm concerned, lied through his teeth when he said football doesn't mean anything and neither does losing $135 million. I don't know what world he's living in, but I'm not buying that part. That was clearly a PR statement right there, because that made no sense whatsoever.
$35 million, it means something to me.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right, guys, thanks so much. We really do appreciate it. And
thank you.
Yeah.
Dave, if you do us a favor and lay off the fajitas, we're greatly
Yeah, we don't need to hear it.
All right, so let's...
He's really regretting cracking that joke.